You know that feeling of hitting the open road on a motorcycle? The freedom, the wind. It's just, wow, exhilarating.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what if I told you there's maybe a hidden battle going on, one that happens on every long ride, something most riders don't really talk about much until it's maybe too late? Today, we're doing a deep dive into the surprising physical, mental, and, yeah, environmental toll that long-distance motorcycling takes. And then we're going to look at some really interesting, kind of game-changing, holistic solutions.
That's good.
Our guide for this is packed with insights into, not just what riders put up with, but maybe more importantly, how they can sort of transform that suffering into real comfort and better performance.
Right. Sustainable performance.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to pull out those essential nuggets of knowledge to help you understand how even something thrilling like motorcycling demands, well, serious attention to your body's limits and your overall well-being.
And what's really revealing, I think, is how things that seem like just minor annoyances on a ride, they can actually compound pretty quickly into significant problems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that impacts not just your comfort, but critically, your safety, too. We'll explore how stuff like sustained focus, those constant vibrations, even just your basic posture can kind of cascade into physical and mental demands that honestly surprise even seasoned riders.
Okay.
So let's maybe peel back the layers a bit, look at the specific points of struggle.
All right, let's do that. Let's zero in on these common suffering points. Definitely more complicated than just, a sore butt after a few hours.
Yeah, much more.
So we're looking at 4 main categories. The first one, maybe the most obvious, is just physical fatigue and pain. Pure and simple.
Right. Makes sense.
I mean, just think about holding that riding posture for hours on end, gripping the handlebars, using your core, keeping your feet just right on the pegs. It's like this constant low-level isometric hold, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And that constant holding, it can really strain muscles in your back, your neck, shoulders, wrists, all the usual suspects. But it's not just the static strain. It's also the prolonged handlebar vibration. That can lead to some really significant long-term issues.
Like what?
Well, we're talking about things like white finger syndrome, for instance. That's actually nerve damage from restricted blood flow. Your fingers can literally lose sensation, turn pale.
Wow, okay.
And then there's just general joint pain, of course. Plus, you get numbness from that sustained pressure. Things like rider's crotch, which is that really uncomfortable, sometimes alarming perineal numbness.
Right, I've heard of that.
Or just the classic tingling in your hands and feet. And leg cramps, too. They're incredibly common from just not being able to move much and that constant pressure on the foot pegs.
It really sounds like your body is under this constant kind of subtle assault the whole time.
That's a good way to put it.
And, okay, beyond the bike itself, the environment plays this huge, maybe underestimated role, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely huge.
What are some of the key environmental stressors?
Yeah.
What are riders battling out there?
Well, you're basically battling the elements constantly. Wind, rain, intense heat, biting cold. All of that can exhaust your body remarkably quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Hypothermia can actually set in during a cold rain if you're not prepared. Or you can get rapidly dehydrated in really high heat.
Makes sense.
But here's one that's often overlooked. Wind noise. Inside your helmet at highway speeds, it can easily top 85 decibels.
85, that's loud.
It is, and constant exposure doesn't just cause hearing fatigue, which makes it harder to focus. It can actually lead to permanent long-term hearing loss. And then naturally, you've got sun and wind burn, major issues. They rapidly dehydrate your skin, leaving you feeling just completely drained.
Man, and as exhausting as all those physical and environmental things sound, the mental toll on a long ride, that can be just as intense, maybe even more so, right?
Oh.
This is where it gets really interesting for me.
It absolutely is. Think of your brain like a high-speed processor running a really demanding video game.
Oh.
You're maintaining the sustained focus on everything around you. Road hazards, traffic, debris, unexpected changes, sudden stops.
Constantly scanning?
Exactly. It demands hypervigilance, which is incredibly mentally draining. And then if you're navigating unfamiliar routes or dealing with heavy traffic, that demands constant critical thinking.
Right.
Which leads to something called decision fatigue. Suddenly, even simple things like choosing the right exit or figuring out which gas station to stop at feels like this monumental effort.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So, okay, on top of all that, What are some of the other specific issues, and what are the sort of overarching challenges for riders?
Well, beyond what we've already covered, saddle sores from friction are a real problem.
Right.
And they can be incredibly debilitating, you know?
Yeah.
They make you shift around constantly, which just makes other issues worse.
Yeah, makes sense.
And like we touched on dehydration, it's so critical, but it's also really easy to overlook because the wind often masks how much you're actually sweating.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so that can lead to headaches, dizziness, even impaired judgment, which is obviously dangerous. So the big overarching challenges are really that constant dehydration and sun exposure, the mental burnout from either monotony or stress, and significantly poor ergonomics.
Ergonomics, so the bike fit itself.
Exactly. An ill-fitting bike can just amplify all these pains and problems exponentially. It can turn what should be a fun ride into a total ordeal.
So what does this all mean for someone who, just wants to enjoy those long rides without feeling completely wrecked afterwards?
Yeah, the basic steps are really foundational but crucial. It involves physical prep, so consistent training, stretching, strength exercises to build up your resilience.
Right, getting your body ready.
Exactly, and proper gear is absolutely essential. We're talking padded, ergonomic seats, maybe vibration dampening gloves, good quality air protection.
Okay.
Staying hydrated, obviously. Using electrolyte drinks, not just water sometimes, is non-negotiable. And optimizing your bike's fit, getting those handlebars and pegs professionally adjusted, tailored just for your body, that can make a world of difference in preventing a lot of these issues before they even start.
Now, this is where it really gets fascinating, I think. Dr. Vin Korikoff, who offers a very specific kind of holistic approach to preventing and alleviating a lot of these physical issues. What's his core philosophy? What's his focus?
Right. Dr. Korikoff's approach really zeroes in on spinal alignment, joint mobility, nerve function, and the overall health of your soft tissue, so your muscles, ligaments, tendons.
Okay.
The really profound insight here, I think, is that while tons of riders focus on customizing their bike, Dr. Korikoff highlights that the rider's own biomechanics are often the most overlooked performance upgrade for long-distance comfort and safety.
Huh. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and it raises that important question. How exactly does a chiropractor specifically address rider woes, like that uncomfortable rider's crotch, or the numbness we sometimes call cyclists' palsy? Let's dive into his methods.
Okay, let's do it. So if I'm a rider and I'm constantly hunched over fighting that really familiar neck and back pain, how does Dr. Korikoff actually get to the root of that? Is it just about telling me to sit up straight, or is there something deeper he's addressing?
Oh, it's definitely deeper than just posture advice. He actually adjusts misaligned vertebrae, particularly in your cervical spine, that's your neck area, and your thoracic spine, your mid-back.
Adjust them. How?
Well, using specific chiropractic techniques to restore proper alignment and movement. He also works on correcting that forward head posture, when your head juts out. That puts immense strain on your neck and shoulders.
Yeah, I can picture that.
And for pelvic imbalance, which is super common from sitting, especially on a bike, he works to realign the pelvis itself. Think of it like re-leveling the foundation you're sitting on, but internally.
Okay.
By making sure your pelvis is aligned, you distribute pressure more evenly across the saddle, which can prevent those common saddle sores and that numbness issue.
Right, that makes sense. What about those really specific nerve issues then, like the hand and arm numbness or that rider's crotch feeling you mentioned?
Yeah, so for the hand and arm numbness, which is often linked to handlebar vibration and sometimes called cyclist's palsy, he'll perform adjustments on the wrist, the elbow, or even up in the cervical spine. The goal is to relieve pressure on the ulnar and median nerves.
Those are the main nerves in the arm.
Exactly. They're the main pathways for sensation and movement in your arms and hands. And for that sciatic or perineal numbness, the rider's crotch feeling, he focuses on releasing tension in the lumbar spine, your lower back, and the pelvis, because that's often where those sensitive nerves are getting compressed.
Okay. And, when you're on the bike for hours, you get incredibly stiff. Joints lock up. You get those repetitive strain injuries. How does he tackle those?
Well, he helps restore the range of motion. So in stiff hips, knees, ankles, he uses targeted adjustments and mobilizations to get them moving freely again.
Mobilizations.
Yeah, techniques to gently improve joint movement. And for those repetitive strain issues like tendinitis or maybe bursitis in your knees and shoulders, he looks for the underlying joint dysfunction that's causing the repeated stress in the first place. It's about fixing the root cause, not just the symptom.
Getting the whole system moving correctly again.
Precisely.
Now, myofascial release and Graston techniques, they sound a bit, technical. What exactly are these, and how do they help a rider specifically?
Yeah, they can sound intimidating, but they're basically types of soft tissue therapy. Myofascial release involves applying gentle, sustained pressure to stretch the fascia. That's the tough connective tissue that surrounds and supports your muscles.
Like ironing out wrinkles.
That's a great analogy, actually. It helps muscles move more freely. Graston technique uses specialized stainless steel tools to break down adhesions. Yeah,
Adhesions.
think of them as knots or bits of scar tissue that build up from repetitive strain or injury. They can really restrict movement and cause pain. So Graston helps break those down.
Okay.
Along with deep tissue massage, these techniques are fantastic for relaxing those chronically overworked muscles like your traps, your quads, your calves. They address spasms and trigger points. And they're also really crucial for post-ride recovery, helping to break down that built-up tension from holding that position for so long.
That sounds incredibly useful. Now, thinking long term, this is critical, right? How does Dr. Korokoff advise on bike fit and maybe pre-ride preparation?
Yeah, this is huge for prevention. He offers tailored guidance, so advising on the optimal saddle height for you, the right handlebar reach, the best foot peg position, but he customizes it based on your specific spinal and pelvic alignment.
This is really personalized.
Very personalized. He also often performs movement screenings. These help identify specific muscle imbalances. You might have like maybe a really tight hip flexors from sitting all day or weak glutes.
Right.
And then he prescribes specific corrective exercises to address those weaknesses before they cause problems on the bike. And crucially, he teaches proper pre-ride warm-ups and dynamic stretch, not static stretches, but dynamic ones to really prepare your joints and muscles for the demands of the ride, minimizing that injury risk. And sort of rounding it all out, he integrates broader holistic pain management strategies too.
Like what?
Well, things like recommending ice or heat therapy when appropriate, maybe advising on anti-inflammatory nutrition, or suggesting specific supplements to help manage inflammation naturally. He also often addresses tension headaches, which are super common for riders from that neck strain by adjusting the cervical spine, that neck area we talked about earlier.
So it's a really comprehensive approach. If someone listening was thinking, okay, this sounds like something I need, and they were to seek out this kind of specialized care, say at Advantage Healthcare of Spartanburg, what's the typical process? What can a rider expect?
Right. Process usually starts with a really thorough assessment. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So that includes things like a posture analysis, a detailed gait and movement exam, watching how you walk and move spinal palpation, where he actually feels the spine for misalignments, and then a really in-depth discussion about your specific riding habits, your bike, and the issues you're experiencing.
And getting the full picture.
Exactly. From all that information, a personalized treatment plan is developed.
Yeah.
And it's often done in phases. First, there's usually an acute phase focused on reducing your immediate pain and inflammation. Then, a rehab phase where the focus shifts to strengthening weak areas and restoring proper function and movement patterns. And finally, there's preventive care, maybe regular adjustments or check-ins to maintain those gains and prevent future problems.
Now, it's always important, with any kind of treatment really, to understand the limits and the safety aspects.
Yeah.
What does Dr. Korokoff emphasize here for riders who might be considering chiropractic care?
Yeah, this is absolutely crucial. He stresses that chiropractic care should generally be avoided during acute injuries, things like fresh fractures, severe inflammation, or active infections. Those definitely require immediate medical attention first.
Right. First things first.
Exactly. He also points out that chiropractic care isn't some standalone magic bullet. It works best when it's integrated, when it's combined with other important factors like getting your bike fit right, doing consistent strength training, smart stretching, and making sure you get adequate rest and recovery.
It's part of a bigger picture.
Precisely. And, significantly, he advises choosing your chiropractor wisely. You really want to seek out someone who is experienced specifically in sports medicine or who has a deep understanding of the unique biomechanical demands and common injuries associated with biking. Not every chiropractor might have that specific expertise.
That's really good advice. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, whether you're a rider or maybe just someone who pushes their body for their passion? Our deep dive clearly shows us that these long rides, they're far more demanding than they might look from the outside. They impact us physically, mentally, environmentally, in ways we might not even realize. But the really great news here is that there are tangible, holistic strategies to actually address these challenges.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, I think it really highlights the universal importance of understanding your own body's limits, whatever you do, and proactively integrating preventative and restorative care into whatever passion drives you.
Right, not just pushing through the pain.
Exactly. Regular attention to your biomechanics, whether that's through chiropractic care like we discussed, or smart training, or ergonomic adjustments in your setup, it can dramatically reduce strain. It can allow you to pursue your interests, whether it's writing, hiking, running, even just working comfortably at your desk, for longer, with more comfort and less pain.
It really hammers home that maximizing your enjoyment and, crucially, your safety isn't just about the machine, is it? It's profoundly about optimizing your own human mechanics.
Well said.
It's about turning that potential suffering we talked about into sustainable exhilaration.
Yeah. So, for you listening, maybe we leave you with this thought. If even the most seasoned motorcycle riders face such complex physical and mental demands, what hidden stresses, what subtle strains might you be overlooking in your own passions or even just your daily activities?
Okay, good question.
And how might a more holistic approach, thinking about your body as a whole system, unlock greater comfort, better performance, and maybe even more longevity for you in whatever it is you love to do?